School. Let's talk about school. Hey guys, I just want to do a hopefully short video on school and my plans for school. Obviously any of this can change because I am like 4 years out from adoption. 2 to 4 years I'm going to say out from adoption anyway, so things can change, but I just wanted to do a general video on my thoughts about what my plans are for school. So if you haven't followed me, my intention was always to homeschool my child. I was a teacher in my previous life, and I just don't like the way the school systems have gone, and I just don't believe in the school systems as much as I used to when I first got into teaching, and I am no longer teaching because of that. And just for me, I just felt like homeschooling is the best option for the majority of children out there and whatnot. So homeschooling was my plan, and things have changed. In a magical world where I am a bazillionaire and money is not an issue at all, I would totally stay at home, be a stay-at-home parent, and homeschool my child. Unfortunately, money does exist in my life, or doesn't exist in my life, I should say. So that is a factor that comes into play. For my child, just a little idea so you know what I'm dealing with. I am adopting a child internationally that will most likely have Down syndrome. I am specifying Down syndrome. So and I'm specifying female, so she will most likely have Down syndrome. The severity of her Down syndrome, I don't know at this point in time, obviously, because I have not been matched, but that is what my profile will be saying, is specifying a Down syndrome female. Previously, when I was thinking of homeschooling, planning on homeschooling, I was planning on like a typical child. And to me, typical children do not thrive in a school environment. I just don't like the school system. So for me, my goal for my child was to get them the best education possible, and I didn't feel like that was the public school system. So my plan was to have them find a home daycare that was willing to take them beyond age 6, and then send them to the daycare with work so they would have stuff to work on while at the home daycare. They wouldn't require very much supervision. When they became of an age that I felt it was safe and they were mature enough to stay home alone, that's when I would just let them stay home alone and give them, again, they would have certain work that they would need to do during the day, and yada yada. That was my homeschooling plan. Unfortunately, with Down syndrome, it is hard for me to find a home daycare that is going to be willing to accept them to begin with. And then on top of that, willing to accept them beyond age 6. And for me, as a parent, I am not going to be sending my kid to daycare with work. I do not expect them to be able to do the type of work that I was planning on sending with my child before. And I also do not expect them to be independent enough at a young enough age for me to let them stay home alone in a way that's going to be cost effective in terms of having somewhere for them to be that's safe and supervised. So with a home daycare, I was looking at around $700 a month in daycare costs, which if I was homeschooling, that was fine because they would be getting, in my opinion, a better education than if I put them into a school. With my child having Down syndrome, however, that $700, if I could even find a daycare that would accept them, to me would be them, they wouldn't be learning anything because they would need more one-on-one learning. And they also, I don't think they would be thriving with having, as they grew older, they wouldn't be with same age peers or roughly same age peers. They would be with little kids. And I don't think socially that's the best option for them either. I then looked into Montessori schools because Montessori schools kind of fit more like what my philosophy is for teaching, but those are $850 a month. And for me, my goals for my child are different. Yes, I do want them to get a good education, but I'm more focused on life skills, and I don't think that any option other than me being a stay-at-home parent will allow my child to be able to learn the life skills that I want them to be taught by an education system. So for me, it's more about getting them a safe place to to stay while I'm at work and less about what they're learning. And also, obviously, the socialization and integration. There is a school locally and a daycare locally that is a special needs school, but I don't believe that it should be, I don't want to exclude my child from a normal education. They do like a transition as well. So if they're having trouble at school, you can send them to that school and then they'll transition them back into a typical school. But again, if they're not having problems, I don't want to have them thrown into that to begin with. So anyway, the Montessori schools are $850 a month, which is a lot of money for what I consider a not much different education for a child that is special needs. They'll still be getting their socialization and they'll still be getting a little bit of education, but they're not going to gain, I don't think, anything different than a public school would. For that price. I think there is definitely benefits of it, and if I had $850 just lying around every month to send them to that, I probably would. Just the cost is crazy, especially as a single parent. So for me, my best option is looking like public school. And by public school, here in Canada, we have public school and we have Catholic school. I mean public school as in a not private school. So I haven't decided exactly if I will send them to a Catholic school or a public school. Both are funded, government funded, so I won't have to pay out of pocket to send them if I wanted to send them to a Catholic school. I was raised Catholic. I was sent to Catholic school. I've never been to a public school. I've worked at public schools and I've worked at Catholic schools. So for me, I haven't quite decided yet. I don't want to get into religion and stuff, but I do prefer the Catholic system. I just don't know exactly how completely I feel about it. Me no longer being Catholic. My child could go to a Catholic school, no issue. The local rule is priority goes to children who are baptized or whose one or two parents have been baptized. I've been baptized, therefore my child will qualify there. And then if they have room, they will take children of other faiths. With the current state of schools, less and less people are enrolling their children in Catholic schools. So it is, they're taking more and more children of different faiths. So for me, I would probably prefer the Catholic school. They also have uniforms in the Catholic school, which make it a bit easier because it's like, this is what you're wearing. I'm not sure how that would play in effect for a child with Down syndrome if they're gonna get mad at me for making them wear the uniform. Like them being stuck wearing the same thing all the time, basically, or if they're gonna want more freedom in what they can wear to school. I'm not quite sure how things are gonna work out, but I feel like the Catholic schools are also better funded. When we do taxes, we choose, okay, do you want your taxes to go to the Catholic system or the public system? So everyone in my family supports the Catholic system over the public system just because that's where we grew up. Anyway, where was I going? So for the public school, like I said, pushing public school and Catholic school into the general public school versus a private school. For sending them there, it would not cost me anything beyond their uniform and normal textbook or school supply costs. But they would have access to more resources than I feel like they would get at a private school. A lot of private schools do not have like EAs, like educational assistants, or like one-on-one care. So for special needs children, it's sometimes harder because they just don't have the staff to help your child. If my child, for instance, isn't toilet trained when they start school, that could be a challenge with just trying to get someone who can take them to the bathroom and help them. If my child, I'm planning on teaching my child sign language, so which is super common with Down syndrome children to learn sign language. So for my child in a private school, they might not have someone who does sign language, whereas a public school will. They will have the resources. They'll make sure that my child is accommodated. Just stuff like that. I just feel like there's more things that can accommodate my child in a public school. Sorry, Taylor's squeaking a toy. Than in the private school system. Like I said, best case scenario would be being rich and stay at home. But that is not going to happen. So for me, the public school is better. I'll do another video on living, like where I'm gonna live and stuff, but as of right now, I'm not quite sure. For me, the private schools, just there's like the one school, so I would be driving, depending on where I was living, up to almost an hour one way to drive them to the public school, or the private school, sorry, whereas the public schools, there's one everywhere, there's tons, and for me, just, I want to make sure my child is getting the exposure to being with like-age children, and whatnot. And for me, like I said earlier, my goal is to teach them life skills, teach them the basics like reading, writing, math, the basic level of things, to help them function independently and hopefully have a career in the future. I'm not too concerned of whether or not they can do advanced algebra. Like, I'm not concerned about stuff like that. I want them to have a good enough education that they can be independent in their life, and they can also hopefully be able to have some sort of employment and whatnot in the future. So for me, I don't really care if they go to college or university. If they want to, they can. I fully support them with that. But if they don't, I also support them with that. Whereas previously, when I was having a typical child, I would have supported them, but I would have liked them to have a post-secondary education. I would have higher expectations of what they would have been learning. And I also would have supported them more like having them do a lot of work independently. Whereas with a child that I'm adopting, I'm planning on having more work that I'm working with them one-on-one, and less so, here's your research project I want you to do on whatever your interest is, and you go kind of work on that and come back to me, kind of thing. It's not going to be like that. It's going to be more like, oh, you're interested in trains, let's look up trains together, let's research trains together, more one-on-one. And I feel like the combination of sending them to a public school and then whatever work on them at home and whatnot, I just think that like that combination will suit my child better, as well as my budget better. I would rather take that $850 a month that I would be spending on private school, or the $700 I'd be spending on daycare. I would rather put that towards things like occupational therapy or speech therapy, anything like that. Swim lessons I feel are very valuable, so I will probably do stuff like that. I don't know what medications they might be on, or like more emergency medical stuff they might need. I would rather take that money and save it for stuff like that, and put them into a savings account for the future if anything should happen to me or whatnot. I would rather put that money away somewhere. I also want to have them have a lot of life experiences, so like traveling I think is very valuable. Disney, I love Disney. If you don't know that already, I love Disney, so I definitely plan on taking them to Disney. There's also what's called the Buddy Cruise. It is basically a Down syndrome conference on a cruise ship. Me and my brother unintentionally went on this cruise because they just put it on a normal cruise, and then you just pay, I think it was like $60 extra to go to the conference stuff. We obviously did not sign up for the conference because we weren't planning on going. We didn't even know it existed. But it's a huge conference. I think there was like 300 people or something like that. And so I would rather put that $850 a month towards going on the cruise once a year, which is obviously not going to cost me like that much money, but putting it towards like that, and getting my child, because that conference would allow my child to be around other children with Down syndrome. It would allow me as a parent to talk to parents with Down syndrome, or talk to parents with children with Down syndrome, and to just have that experience. So for me, $850 a month is a really high cost for something that I don't fully think will benefit my child as much as I would have liked it to. I think with the public school, they will get enough out of it to satisfy what I believe they need as an education, and with me working with them at home as well. So it's more like a free daycare where I'm hoping they'll learn something, if that makes sense. Less so than I'm hoping they're going to get their full education from the school. So yeah, I hope that kind of explained my thoughts with schooling a bit. if you have any comments or suggestions, please let me know. Don't be rude though. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to follow me on this journey, and I shall talk to you guys later. Thanks for watching.